All right. Like I said, placing the books from the prophets in order. And part two, this will be the end for right now until I get to the other text and can put them all together. Because right now it's kind of unique to see these in their original format. And I'm pretty proud of what I'm showing here. So let's take a look at what the first PDF putting these together is going to look like. And hopefully, like I said, by this, after I get that website fixed, I'll try to start linking these together. But I'm going to have the table of contents and then what's needed for reference for those, because it's just jumping around throughout history and not really having much of the story. They're pretty much just prophecies, which is awfully important because we're having recorded words from our Creator. And I've left the text small enough that this is like one of the groups that was found. When you clean these up, they kind of actually have this storytelling done to you, or when our Creator is speaking. It's unique to see text, I think it is, how they wrote, and then you can tell by the different writer style how educated they were when they wrote these. Because if you notice, this one is just two verse, and then I have like a space here to show that that's separating the story within this chapter, or however I've kind of tried to designate these. And then you see a 3-verse format here, and then you can see a 4-verse when it starts off, and then it reverts to a 3-verse. And it's kind of unique to see that that's how the text would have been wrote by people. Now, some of these are maybe 15,000 years or 1,500 years ago to 1,800 years ago to almost 2,000. Well, not quite 2,000. But you can tell that there is a style from the writers that people have been hiding, or when they jumbled the text together, they rewrote it and wrote over it and tried to actually deceive you into different words being said that weren't really said. I'm very capable, as you've been listening to me, how these got put into paragraphs by this 3-verse format here. Now, this one here is unique because here it's got 2 verses that are hooked together, but they also are a larger paragraph. That's why I'm spaced, because these two hook together. And then down here, these two hook together. And you can see that's the style of this writer had wrote all the way through. And that's unique. And to say at Habakkuk's time, you can see that this is kind of in the mid-range of years. Oh yeah, wait a second, we're in 2000, so I've been, so they are about 3,000 years old. Sorry about that. But the object is we're getting these to be placed at a certain time where we now can actually see that this writer, I would like to show the style of writers for all the text when I get done. And you can see from Psalms that a lot of the books aren't going to make it. There's no reason to do Lamentations. There's no reasons to do Songs of Solomon. Those are just false books. I believe they are just false books. I've already, like I said, I did this in 95, but I left all the text in between it. And then now what I'm doing is to reveal what I had found, and then saying, time to get rid of that other text. It's just not helpful to, for those who really truly want to know about our Creator and how He shared His love for the Hebrew people. Because other than that, we have no reason why we are to enter into heaven. I mean, I have a video in the description box, or in the description, or in the link. I don't know how I'm going to do that yet, but I'm going to put out all the links of everything that I've done, and then try to keep it updated from video to video. But I'm just looking here. I can see this is that 2:1:2 spacing, that these here are a larger format as well. Was that Habakkuk as well? Yes. Okay. But to be able to put in images like this to go along with the story, as what we witnessed in Ezra and Habakkuk, mainly Ezra, that it didn't take 200 years before the house was rebuilt. Because there was people that witnessed in the first time it was burnt. So there was witnesses that came back. They were the elders, but they did witness it. They were there when they seen and laid the new stones down. So, or the new blocks down. So the text reflects that. So that means some books like Ezra and Ruth, they're just not truthful. You don't need to, you don't learn anything of the truth by our Creator from those. But when you look at the text here and see how beautiful it is, and the way I am editing this to reflect that when our Creator is speaking, they're all capital letters. And then for Jesus, I'm putting in his where he is at in the text in red. And when I do the 4 Gospels, I'll go through and explain again what's going on there. But this is what the text is going to look like, and it looks pretty good. It's going to be a PDF that I'm going to share as I start putting them together in order. And these are going to have pictures and other things in them. So it gets to be pretty interesting. Here's a good 4 verse all the way through. So here's another 4 verse. And it does take a little bit of wording to be able to put them together, because they were found probably 2 verses at a time, 2 verses at a time, and then I was putting them together. And you can hear me going through those videos and how how my little mind is working as far as how these actually come together, and how to be truthful about all the things that I know. Most people have never taken the time. I've spent hundreds, thousands of hours in studying, because I own the copyrights to the Bible. I'm registered in Library of Congress with the Old Testament. This is what I'm showing you I had found, but I left the other words in there. I just kind of like, okay, they're there, but they don't really mean nothing. And now I'm just saying, chuck them out, and I'm showing you why I'm chucking them out. And what's left is these words that we have for our Creator, and news about Jesus, and how people had wrote, and how a lot of times these might be just 4 verses, but there's so much I can explain within them that it's unique. Example, my mother goes to church every Sunday since she's been very young. So that's kind of 91 years worth of going to church on Sunday. But the thing here is that when I start showing her this text and she started reading it, she'd ask about it. And sometimes within like this 4 group, I could be spending probably 35, 45 minutes on explaining the words and how they are there and why they are so important. That when people say sacrifice, do you actually know what a sacrifice is? And that's just the beginning of the offering. Okay, so that you need to have a sacrifice before you have an offering. But the object is the offering takes place on the inside. The sacrifice takes on the outside of his fence that goes around his house or tent. But these things are so unique when you start, when you really have a lot of knowledge. This is how the text becomes as if the first writers, because I have to know what they know, okay, to be able to do a lot of these things. And especially when editing, I mean, when you're going through Psalms and I was trying to take things out or say, well, this isn't true. Sometimes I got so repetitive, I just kept saying, well, this isn't true because of the last time I talked to you. But the object is then when it was just changing one word, I tried to explain the meaning. I mean, the example, our Creator said he created man, male and female. So the text reflects the secular meaning for man and doesn't have the word woman in the text at all. Example, I've already done the 4 Gospels that I'm going to show you, and I'm going through, and I haven't found a verse there that actually says women are going to heaven. In this text here, that everything that I've done, nothing about a woman going to heaven yet. But when you realize what the word man means, now, according to our Creator's definition, now women are able to enter into heaven. So the thing here is I just want to go through and tell you that how things are cleaned up. And I did change it back to where this guy's name is larger than Jeremiah's, because until I can actually get Jeremiah, and that book has got like 71 chapters, that I know is going to take 2 months to get through. So if Nehemiah or Nahum is found out in that text, then we'll use his name, or I'll use his name. If not, this text will be named Jeremiah, because he did a lot of talking. We have a lot of words from him, which has a lot of prophecies. But actually, I know some of the text already, and I can tell you that when he's talking about going after Israel and being carried away, well, they were already carried away about 100 years before he existed. So, but what you can see here is and then this is the text that I moved. This will be at the very end, because it's talking to the remnant as if all the captives are already taken away. So most of the text we have is before that time. In fact, this is the only text that we have of as them words being left after they've been carried away out of the group so far. Now, these are the texts where these books will go in. These are the ones I haven't done yet, so they will be done. And then we have the returning, which is probably the most important text that we have really so far, because by the cleaning up of the text and by spotting certain words to explain why would the king decide to do such a thing as to rebuild the Jerusalem, and knowing that I've already know what I know in Daniel, I was able to explain a lot of why who Cyrus is and why he would be the second, or he would have been the king immediately after Nebuchadnezzar. But the object here is this is a timeline that is actually saying that that they might have been captured and taken away for maybe 30 years before they were being sent back. It might have been a lesser time. I'm thinking it's really about 26 years, 24 to 26 years. So, but the text and the way I went through this and proved that Ezra is not needed and Ruth is not needed, I'm going to have to refer to the video Ezra and go through and explain why all this is done this way to say that it's there. I mean, this is happening. Now, when it comes up to like the word Aramaic, yes, I know that the text there implies that the people were speaking Aramaic that were being sent to them. This would have been, I think it's actually the beginning of the Arab language was Aramaic before then. And no, Jesus did not speak in Aramaic, because when he went to the poor people in Jerusalem, or the promised land, they sure were not speaking Aramaic, and he was speaking to them in the language they knew. So another deceiving thing that people play on you. So, and for a long time, and if you listen to what I've got to say when I'm doing these, you will find out that how much goes into understanding all the words around it, how the words need to be placed and put together to be truthful. I mean, you can't have just any word appearing that, and then try to say, leave that in that verse. Example, when they said beyond the river all the time here, they were using the word east as beyond, even though they were speaking of both sides of the river. It was beyond the river. Well, if you say beyond the river, then it would be down farther than the River Jordan, which would have been beyond the, I would call it the Lake of the Dead. I would call it the Salty Lake. Okay, I think I did label that way because it's not a sea. It is a lake, and it is just salty. I would say that there must have been a salt mine near that area, and it collapsed from when the water got in there, and that's how that became so salty. But here we have some really beautiful text. Yes, I've still got questions, or I've still got it noted as what needs to be truly investigated, because there's some things that I have made the final decision on and put this into the book. And let me get down to the bottom here, because what I did for people, they need a reference for a map. So this will be a map. There will be other maps joining the text as I go on, because Edom is down here. So when it was saying in Jerusalem is up here, so when it was saying beyond here, well, this isn't the truth. The people weren't down here coming all the way up here complaining. It would have been the people looking down from these mounts here, looking down on Jerusalem, seeing what's going on. And that's would have been the remnant laid rusted over here, because you can see what I've done here is divided this map into the two nations, the nation for Israel and the nation for Judah. And this does show that Daniel did conquer this area, and he did conquer all this area here and up in here and even more. So you really have to understand when there's so much text when you read it that it's not really the text where it says, oh, this is what you should be looking for on the map, or this is what you need to know. I'm going to give helpful hints so that when you're reading it, and say like when we get into the battle of David conquering Edom, because I just went through a couple verses, we have text from Edom. During that time, I did show the map. Let me show you the map. So because people might just come here and not understand what I did during the text, because what I was trying to do is actually show people. Yeah, let's see this one here. This got it. Yeah. As you can see, here is Damascus way up here at the top, not on the screen there. If I do this, then you can see Damascus and how they came down here, and how Edom was down here as a kingdom, and how they come up here. And actually the text said they met them at the rivers. So they would have, this little break line here, this is not a river. This is the territory to show the land where they used rivers as a boundary, or understanding where the land stops for one and starts for another. And then the other one, if it says rivers, it means these came down here to fight by this river, and these guys came up here to fight by these rivers, because they actually had to come in through this way to go fight David. Our Creator gave him a prophecy that we've read here, and I told the story that David came out through here, and he's going to go out and fight them. And then he divided half his troops one way and half troops for the other one. And this is what I've done for the story, because this also shows here the path that David would have took, and it shows that when David was younger, he would have probably took the same path to Edom to stay there so Saul didn't come after and kill him anymore. So these would have been travels that it would have been the easiest way for someone to get from here to here. You wouldn't be going up and down, because this mount, like I even showed those examples that sea level is here, then the Jordan River is here, and the mounts are up here. These mounts on this side of the map that you're seeing right up in here, these are like up here. This is where Moses looked down on the hill country for Israel. So I've got plenty of maps that I go through and I explain what's going on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap up this video, and I work on that website. And then the next time I start making videos will be on the 4 Gospels and really tearing them apart, because there is no real format, but there is so much untruthfulness in each verse. And I mean, just, and I'm going to explain it, because when I explain things, it's better to say, okay, well, that's the reason why I shouldn't believe that. That would be you saying that when I'm watching this, that I can believe this guy because he's knowledgeable about everything, and he's just not going through just saying, throw this out, and not giving examples. There are so many things that need to be understood. Example, there are no 10 commandments, there's 12 commandments. These are the 12 commandments that you're seeing, and yet it says 10. But like I told you before, that the Hebrew language, which you find this in Exodus, never said it as one word. They would use 10 and 2. So somebody, when you get to saying that we have manuscripts and they're very truthful, well, they removed the word 2, because you have to look for the word 10 spelled out to find there's 2 verses that actually say 10 commandments. But here is Exodus 21 through 17, and there are 12. Okay, so don't tell me there's no mistakes and I don't know what I'm talking about. I have so many little images to pull up over all the example. I can sit here and honestly say, if I averaged how many hours I've spent studying the Bible in the last, say, 30 years, I can honestly say probably 3 hours a day, every day for 30 years. So yes, I will be explaining all the things that I've learned that are right in my head to be able to say this or that needs to be correct. I think, what was it, Psalms 31 and 55, where I just, like, this stuff is just going to be thrown out because, and then I stopped myself and I said, well, wait a minute, let me go look at that list of kings. And I started telling what I knew off the top of my head. And then when I went back into the text, those words were there. They were just said just a shade different than the way I described it, but they were there. And then that way I could say, that is that king from that time, and it's not David saying this. So the Psalms are very good too. I think I'm going to stop here, and talk more on the next video. And like I said, it's going to be about a week, I think, before I'll be able to get back into starting up again.